You know, there's a difference between survival and living comfortably. I don't know what people's definition of living comfortably is, but really it doesn't include a whole lot more than halfway decent food, a warm room, and a roof over your head. Doesn't have to be luxury. Everybody I know with more than 10 brain cells has been preparing. And I don't actually like the stereotype prepper because it's actually stereotyped kind of like the way a Kentuckian or a Southerner is stereotyped. How you doing? Like, I think everybody in the South is like Gomer Pyle or something. Like, golly! Shazam! You know, I translate ancient Greek and Pali and write books on abstruse, complex metaphysics. And I was born in the South. Do I cover your Southern stereotype? Anyway, everybody I know is, and I actually spent several days up at the farm of my Florida friends. The farm is in Kentucky, by the way, in southern Kentucky. Everybody kept thinking I was on a mountaintop in Florida because there are no mountains in Florida, and they were laughing. They're like, no. I said, my Florida friends who are in Kentucky. Anyway, they're doing the same thing that my lifelong buddy is doing east of here. He's a lifetime resident of Kentucky. And the other thing that everybody keeps making a mistake about is that they think that being prepared is somehow equated with or parallel to the idea or notion of fear. And it's completely the opposite. When you talk to people like that who have never had a thought in their head for more than 5 microseconds, kind of like a goldfish, you know, it's just constantly flitting back and forth. It never thinks about anything more than 5 seconds. Like, you know, you wear a seatbelt when you get in your car? Like, yeah, at least you're living in fear because you put a seatbelt on. You living in fear of fires because you got a fire extinguisher? No, I haven't because, you know, sometimes there's a fire, and, you know, I had a fire like a decade ago, and so you're not living in fear because you have a fire extinguisher or house insurance or car insurance or life insurance or, you know, you take an umbrella and you know, you don't tap dance out in lightning storms holding up 2 golf clubs in either hand in the middle of a lightning storm. You know, why would you not? Well, it's just dangerous, you know. It's just the idea that these people connect being prepared with living in fear, and I've heard it a million times. It's ridiculous. It's intellectually obnoxious. It's just not true. It doesn't logically follow, and yet people keep making that silly notion. I want to point out something important. I've never heard anybody point it out in my entire life, anywhere, except for me. I'm sure it might be somewhere out there on the internet, but ever since the beginning of time, I wished it wasn't this way, but it is this way. You know, it's kind of like people want things to be a certain way. Like, well, you know, I'm sensible, I would never do that. It's like, well, yeah, it's because you're sensible. You wouldn't do that, but there's a lot of evil, ignorant people out there that would do it. It blows my mind that people think, well, I don't know why anybody would ever do that. I can't make sense of it. Well, the reason why you can't make sense of it is because you can't actually see the way these people of countless different varieties, socioeconomic positions, would do something like that. Why would somebody like risk 100 years in jail for like $20, for example? Because you can ask any cop where somebody actually put their whole life on the line, you know, stick them up, like a grocery store. It's like for $20, right? Like, you can't make sense of it. You can't make sense of it because it's senseless. And people just don't think. A lot of people in this life are isolated. They're living in a nutshell, sniffing their own flatulence, unfortunately. And they just can't see the way the world really is. And it's dangerous, and it's unfair, on and on and on. But since the beginning of time, absolutely since the beginning of time, it's always been this way, and it is still that way today. And I'll remind you that society is the thinnest crust over top of the most dangerous volcano on Earth. Is that the ultimate currency is force. I don't want it to be that way. I'm not saying it's that way. I'm saying that is the way it is. The ultimate currency has always been force, it will always be force, and shall ever remain so that way. If you have any ideas of civilization, you should flush them out of your head. Because I'll repeat to you, society is the thinnest crust over top of the most dangerous volcano. And if you can't register that in your head, then you got a problem. Fort Knox is full of, we could argue whether it's got gold in it anymore or not. People love to talk about that. I don't really care. Fort Knox, which is not far from here, full of gold. It's surrounded by the world's largest battalion of tanks. Look it up, Fort Knox tank training grounds and the most advanced tanks. So within a matter of under 5 minutes, basically, you get to have thousands of the most advanced tanks that exist on planet Earth surrounding that place. So gold and silver protects against inflation, and to own gold and silver without the protection of lead is a dangerous and a dire place to be. People say, well, I got gold and silver. It's like, what are you going to do with that? Well, you know, I could do this with it and that with it. It's like, you know, the ultimate currency is force. It's kind of like that rock, paper, scissors thing. What if they look like rock, paper, scissors, plutonium, right? It doesn't matter what it is. You just, every time you just say plutonium. That trumps rock, paper, scissors, right? Yeah, rock, paper, scissors, plutonium, win. Scissors, plutonium. It trumps everything. Same is true of lead. You know, you could have gold, silver, you could have all this other stuff. Before there was lead, there was steel. Steel is, of course, still quite important. You know, that was the days before lead. It was steel. Starving and thirsty people, fearful men, don't have any care, you know, for having gold and silver. It's about the ability to feed yourself and protect yourself. Beyond the inflation and collapse, gold and silver become useless. Lead protects gold and silver. Lead protects home and family. Lead gathers food and feeds yourself and your family. If you can't buy lead where you're at, then, you know, having steel to protect yourself, and also, too, bow and arrow, you know, to hunt or gather. And beyond inflation, only lead, food, alcohol, water, and water filtration is actually more valuable than water. You know, unless you're out in the desert, you know, where there is no water, and, you know, you got 55-gallon drums of water, and water filtration doesn't do you any good if you got nothing to filter. Everywhere else where there's water everywhere, it's water filtration over that of water. Because it doesn't weigh anything really, and by the way, I recommend getting a Kaded and Pocket filter. It's Swiss-made, it's ceramic, it's incredibly reliable. It's not cheap, they're $300, but the cheapest, best, is the Kaded and Hiker. It used to be Pure, but Kaded and bought them out. Skills and, of course, medicine have tons of value. But if it's valuable, it's protected by lead. Lead is freedom, lead is protection, lead is food, safety, and ultimate insurance against danger and more. Everybody needs to concentrate on maximum independence. Here's something I came up with, and it's 100% undeniable, and that's stratification of currency. There's other things that could fit in here. It starts out with plastic when everything is super peaceful, i.e. debit cards, credit cards. Then it goes to paper, paper currency. Then it goes to gold, silver, platinum. And when that collapses, then you actually have steel and lead. Yeah? And underneath that, there are the metals of force, the secondary level of metals of force, which belong to governments. And that, of course, is uranium, plutonium. But these are the metals of force. There's the metals of commerce, which is gold, silver, platinum, a few other things. And then there's the metals of force. The metals of commerce are always protected by the metals of force. You won't hear that anywhere on the internet. It's so blatantly obvious, so blatantly simple. I've never heard anybody say anything like it, but that's the way it is. Metals of commerce and trade, gold, silver, platinum, are always protected by the metals of force. Steel, lead, uranium, and plutonium. So that's the stratification. I put my money where my mouth is at the past many years. I've known this is coming for a long time. I sold everything not glued down. I'm an expert on land. And I'm also, too, a smith and have worked in a few stores where bang sticks were sold. And I'm an expert on that topic as well. I used to be a DOCJT, Department of Criminal Justice, concealed carry instructor, which basically is 90% women in the class. I was empowering women, to protect themselves. Doesn't pay anything. It's a really horrible job that you have to have insurance for, and you can't charge an arbitrary fee since it's set by the government. So it's a horrible job. Just as any government job, of course, is a horrible job. This video is about surviving 2024 and beyond. Once again, never have been so many people so certain this stuff is headed south. What is it? The defense minister of Sweden told the Swedish people to prepare for WW3, and the Swedes did a run on the grocery stores. Go look that up. Some bigwig in the German government basically said the same thing. There will be, and I'm already starting to see it, and other people are seeing it as well. They're talking, have you seen this? Like, yeah, I know, I've been talking about that in video. A paradigm shift on what is currency. It's gotten to the point now where it's almost impossible to be able to rely on somebody to do a job. You can't wave money at them to get them to do something. It's getting worse and worse every day. You know it, I know it. If you don't know it, then you've had your head firmly planted in a very dark place, unfortunately. Things you need to consider getting, and this is what's really important, and no one's talked about this but me. Someone might have mentioned it. There's that old thing about two people trying to outrun a lion. And one guy says, we're not going to be fast enough to outrun the lion. The lion's a lot faster than we are. And then one guy says to the other guy, well, I don't have to be faster than the lion. I only have to be faster than you. So you don't have to have ultimate preparation. You only have to be able to outlast the people that have been picking the lint out of their belly button and basically doing nothing about it. Oh, it's never going to happen. I get emails like that when I kind of make videos. Oh, it's never going to happen. Yeah, sure. Keep thinking that. The same people in France in the early 1940s said, ain't nothing going to happen. And a week or two later, the tanks from Deutschland were rolling down the streets of old Paris. And Poland, and they're not going to happen, and then of course it happens. It's better to not need it and have it than to need it and not have it. I mean, have you ever heard that old paradigm? Same applies here. Anyway, I put my money where my mouth is at on that front. I've been thinking about these things now for decades. Thankfully, I'm an expert on land. I have plenty of land, and I have retreat places. Well, what's that going to do you? Good's going to do you? It's like, well, the only thing you could do is the best that you can do. That's the best anybody can do, is the best that they can do. You could have 10 fire extinguishers in the house, but if the fire happens when you're not home, then, the fire extinguisher's not done you any good. It's like, well, I wasn't home to put out the fire. 10 fire extinguishers I had didn't do me any good. The only thing you're guaranteed in life is death, taxes, and suffering. But being prepared, chance always favors the prepared mind, of course. There's only a few things that you do need to have, and literally a few. And it doesn't have to be that expensive. And the ideation of you not having them really is quite stupid. I don't care how poor you are. I mean, I'm poor. What have I got in the bank? I've got like $6,200 in the bank. Most of that's going to go towards governmental taxes. So really, I've got like $2,000 in the bank. Judging off of last year, who knows what my taxes will be. I don't have anything. It was, well, you got land. Like, yeah, I do, but that doesn't make me any money. All the land I bought, I got really cheap, and I could sell it for a lot more than I paid for it. But then I wouldn't have the land anymore, and it'd be subject to capital gains taxes, which are absolutely astronomically high. 20% here in Kentucky. Get water filtration. Get the Hiker or the Katadyn Pro. The type of water filtration you need, of course, depends on how many people are in your company, whether you have a family or not. Water filtration is really right up there, number one. Number one really is bang sticks and freedom seeds, but some ability, whether that be steel or something, to protect yourself and your family. Second is sprouting seeds. I didn't bring any in here, but I've got hundreds of pounds of them. properly stored in a cool, dry, dark spot in the basement. I prefer alfalfa and mung beans. A 1-pound bag of alfalfa sprout seeds, which it only weighs 1 pound. There's nothing more compact for feeding a whole lot of people or just yourself for quite a long time. It only takes 7 days to get them to sprout. You can have them work them in rotation. You're eating this one while these two sets are growing them in rotation. There's nothing more compact and nutrient-rich for feeding you than alfalfa sprout seeds. Nothing. I mean, a handful of seeds nurtured to fruition after 7 days is a lot of food, actually. It's quite astonishing. My second favorite is mung beans. You could fry them up like hash browns, hash brown potatoes. They're awesome. I love mung beans. They're tiny little suckers. They're about the size of a BB, a little bit smaller. A minimum of 3 months of non-perishable staples. By the way, in the link below, I spent a couple weeks going over and over and over and over again this list that's better than any list online for foods, for food ideas and premises of what to get. Especially things that serve multiple purposes like honey, because honey, actually it takes days for it to happen. It has to be raw honey. It'll actually clarify your water. It'll kill the cooties out of most water. Raw honey will. It takes days for it to work, but you put some raw honey in there. Also, too, is better than Neosporin for cuts. It's the only food on earth that never, ever, 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 ever goes bad. Honey is the number one on the list. Quality survival food, by the way, it's not about what's most healthy. I talk about mountain house meals, which are their own form of currency. They last 30 years. Freeze-dried. 30 years. People say, well, that's lasagna, spaghetti, that's not the most healthiest thing. Well, it's not about healthy, it's about survival. You know, to eat good and healthy is quite often a luxury in a good situation. Supplementing good foods with survival, of course, is important if you can. This is another reason why to have land. Nobody listens to me. Well, actually, a lot of people do listen to me, like my Florida friends who have a huge farm, and man, they've got beautiful, incredible farm, and some other people have found land for. One of those thin spare tires that's in the trunk of your car, they're not meant to drive at high speed or drive on forever. It's just enough to get you to the freaking tire shop so you could swap it out. These type of 30-year survival foods like lasagna, spaghetti, yada yada, they're not meant to be the healthiest, most nutritious. It's to keep you alive, to get you back home or to the place or time where, things return to normal, if they ever do return to normal. Recommend a survival knife. My top two picks are Gerber LMF and Gerber Strong Arm. Both of those are made in the United States. I have several Gerber LMFs. Where have I got one right over here? It comes in 3 different colors, black, desert tan, and green. Here it is. They're actually a really quite incredible survival knife. They're made in Oregon. They're 100% USA made. I love the hell out of these things. You can actually, they do make a plain edge only Gerber LMF. This is actually a combo knife with serration and straight edge knife. This is a Gerber LMF. You can actually have tie-offs through here and here. It's a full tang on the 3 holes back here, so you could attach it to a stick for hunting, so on and so forth. Really great. You could actually use it for splitting wood. They're really very well made. There are survival knives that are better than this, but they cost a lot more money. I think these are currently, never buy one on eBay because they're all counterfeit there. I think they're like $80, currently new on Amazon. Also, too, a flashlight. I recommend a Surefire, even though they're incredibly expensive. They take 1, 2, 3 batteries. They last forever and ever and ever. Trading currency. There's going to come a time when all the paper money sitting in your safe's not going to do it. And gold and silver's not going to do it. Seeds. A pound of alfalfa sprout seeds are to feed people for a long time, and also, too, they can self-replicate if you let them grow to fruition, obviously. Sprouting seeds, freedom seeds. I'll let you guess what freedom seeds are. Silver, number 1 choice is silver bullion. Alcohol, the tonsil varnish meant for sticking in your pie hole. That's always been a form of currency, and it always will. Forever tools. These mean non-battery powered tools like axes and hammers and screwdrivers, on and on, forever tools. Nails. I got framing nailers and tons of regular nails. This I've got I got an enormous amount more than this. This just happened to be over here by example. These stainless exterior screws, 3 inches for building anything. You chop the wood, or you got a circular saw, you know, putting them together with... They used to burn down old cabins just to harvest the nails. That was back in the ancient days, right? Well, not ancient, but I mean 150 plus years ago. They would take old beat down cabins and set them on fire just so they could collect the nails. And I hate to see it come to the point where nails get like that, but all of society is collapsing. It's not my opinion that it is, and they're trying to get it to collapse. And you know, if you don't know why, then you really had your head in the sand. First aid equipment and all the accoutrement, antibiotics that go with first aid equipment, incredibly important. That is a serious form of trading currency. So seeds, freedom seeds, silver, tonsil varnish, i.e. alcohol, forever tools, nails, first aid equipment. You know those big 30-pound plastic jugs of deck nails and framing nails? Like a 30-pound box of them you can get for like, what, now, $50 roughly. Power, charge controllers, inverters, and solar panels, at least a pair of 300 amp hours. These are 200 amp hours I have back here. I have 6 of total batteries, a couple of which are 300 amp hours. The 300 amp hours are only about 15% bigger than this. There's a sale on these right now at Power Queen. I'll actually post the link below on the 300 amp hour batteries. About 15% bigger than this. I got one right here, right out of view of the camera that I was charging up. With a charge controller and 400 watts minimum, I would recommend a minimum of 400 watts. I mean, you can't do everything, but you can do 90% of everything and stay comfortable. And also to recharge batteries for communication and whatnot. I said it over and over and over again, but the most important thing to have on top of everything is a tiny piece of land away from society. I've told you you can get land for $1,000 an acre. I see land all the time, 5 acres or less, for 15. I saw 4 pieces of land today in Bartlett, Kentucky, I believe. 5 acres, or just under 5 acres, for $15,000 or less. Some are $15,000 to $18,000. All of them were the same. You can get an Amish-built house on there for $10,000 if you want cheap thrills. A shipping container, do-it-yourself insulation, which a blind person could do, and a pot and a stove to install in there for heating. That's $4,000. Let me repeat that. A shipping container, a used shipping container, not one of the small ones, a big one. Shipping container, the insulation, and a stove. Cut a hole in the shipping container, caulk around it. Actually, you put a flashing around it, metal flashing. All of that. Plywood floor. That's $4,000. And important to have an HF radio and batteries. This is also too another form of currency. I didn't buy this, but my friend did this. It's really very piney. It's made in the United States. This is kind of funny. Duke Cannon. I didn't buy this, but my friend bought it and sent it to me. Is soap. Bars of soap. Doesn't have to be fancy, because this is kind of like a play on manliness, which is fine. But bars of soap is another form of currency. But please remember that the only form of currency since the beginning of time, and still remains that way today, is force. That's never going to change. You and I could hate it and protest it. I refuse to believe that. Well, you can refuse to believe in what you want. That's like sticking your hands over your eyes and saying you refuse to believe in grizzly bears until one comes up on you and pounces on you and eats you. I refuse to believe in them. What you believe in and its connection to reality may or may not be close. They could be worlds apart. In which case, if they're worlds apart, that means you've been living in a nutshell, refusing to acknowledge truth. Objective, palpable truth, and natural order. I choose to accept natural order and the way things are. You know, we like to improve things, but human nature being what it is, people could wish the best of other people all they want. There's that saying from the movie. It says, "Wish in one hand and poo in the other, and see which one fills up first." Fills up first. That's the way it is. So remember those things. This really isn't much. Like I said, you don't have to outrun the lion. You only have to outrun all the people around you that have been, playing pickup sticks with, their gluteus maximus cheeks. That's all you have to do. Water filtration, sprouting seeds, minimum of 3 months per person of non-perishable staples. Survival knife, I recommend a Gerber LMF, a good flashlight, trading currency, seeds, freedom seeds, silver, alcohol, forever tools, nails, first aid equipment of the entire spectrum thereof. Having a piece of land. Just consider it an investment. People worry about land. What? It's 100 miles away. I need to take care of it. Raw land takes care of itself. It does. Yeah, I don't know if you know that or not, but raw land takes care of itself. Couple of batteries I recommend. If you got 300, a pair of, which is 600 amp hours total, even a pair of 200 amp hours, these suckers. That with a charge controller, a power inverter. So I got a power inverter over here, a power inverter here, I got a power inverter over there, 2 power inverters in the basement, another power inverter in the back room. I've got lots of power inverters. Covers everything. It's not going to cover your heating and air conditioning through 400 to 600 amp hours, but it's going to cover 90%. Your fans to keep you cool, to charge your electronic devices, to power all your LED lighting, low energy consumption lighting. I'm saying this is how you and I are going to survive 2024 and going on, because if you think this reset is not going on, I will point you to the countless billionaires and mega millionaires that are spending money like it is about to expire, kind of like old milk is about to expire. They're spending money like it's about to expire on mega fortress bunkers. That's not like hearsay or rumor or conspiracy. That's 100% hardcore, undeniable fact! So, you think they're doing that for gits and shiggles? I mean, do you think that they're doing that for gits and shiggles? By the way, I recommend a lot of this stuff. You take your favorite pick. I'm a connoisseur of almond butter. This has only got 2 ingredients, almond butter and salt. By the way, Sam's Club, i.e. Walmart, and I don't love Walmart or Sam's Club. This stuff is awesome. It's cheap. It's like $7 a jug. As long as you keep it cool and dark, it'll essentially last, not forever, but a really long time. You could eat it as you go along the way. Man, you dip biscotti cookies in this, and apples in this, and crackers. Man, this stuff is really good. Stuff like this. I love this stuff. I've got like 3 cases of this stuff. Each one's got like 12 jugs of this stuff. Tell me what you think. I read every comment if you have any ideas along those parameters. I mean, there's a lot more stuff to have. But once again, you don't have to outrun the lion. You just need to outrun essentially everybody else. And that is true when it comes to prepping. Water filtration, tradable currency that is not currency itself. They're these things that have always been currency and will remain currency. Alcohol, first aid equipment, freedom seeds, food. Mountain house meals are themselves food. They last 30 years. They're going to outlive you and outlive me. You think that stuff's not currency? Then you have not been thinking at all. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like these videos. Any donations always warmly welcome. Send me an email if you get any questions or protestations. Just let me know. Lux Everetas.